Hello, I'm Erica Bierstrom, UW-Madison Division of Extension Agriculture Agent. National Farm Safety and Health Week is September 20 through 26, 2020, and I'd like to welcome Cheryl Scolas, UW-Madison Division of Extension Agriculture Safety and Health Specialist, and Dr. John Shutsky, UW-Madison Professor and Extension Specialist. John, this is the 76th observation of the National Farm Safety and Health Week. Tell us about that.
Well, Erica, first of all, thanks for having us on here. Back in the days of World War II in 1944, Franklin D. Roosevelt, the president at the time, really recognized, based on all the things that were happening with World War II, how vitally important things are with farmers. We really need farmers. They're part of feeding a growing nation, feeding the world, and they're also really vital to world peace. So he really said, like, from a perspective of honoring people, it's really critical that we recognize their contribution, but also we need to make sure that we keep them safe, because it is crucial that all farmers and farm workers and employees and family members be out on the land doing the work that they do. The other thing that we've recognized this year in particular is kind of like back the way it was in 1944 with COVID-19 and all the things that have happened. We've really recognized the importance of the agricultural industry and the contribution that people make.
All right, thank you. Cheryl, the theme is Every Farmer Counts. Why is that particularly important to make this point this year?
You know, when we talk about agricultural safety and health, a lot of times we talk about the numbers, the people, the lives lost, the statistics on injuries, the types of illnesses, and we'll get there in a minute. But, you know, the important to remember, these are people. These are the farmers, the farm families, the hired workers, the community connections. They're also vital to our state's ag and food economy. So it's really important that we talk about it's not just that farmer, but everybody involved in agriculture. And to our population in whole, you know, we all eat, you know, and later today I'm going to be making an apple pie bread. And I got thinking about all the people that it takes to raise the apple, produce the eggs, you know, grains for the flour, that there are so many people whose touch in production agriculture comes in just making that loaf of apple pie bread. So in this year in particular with the pandemic, you know, we learned we need everyone in agriculture and we need you to be safe and healthy.
Thank you. John, you and Cheryl were closely involved with the National Farm Medicine Center in a farm fatality study. What can you tell us about that?
Well, Erica, as you know, being part of Extension, we like to partner with a variety of different organizations and agencies, and the National Farm Medicine Center, located right here in Marshfield, Wisconsin, decided to work with us. We worked with them on a project where we went back to the data from 2017 and 2018. They have a database that they maintain called Ag Injury News. And we looked at all of the farm fatalities that had happened in the state of Wisconsin in 2017 and 2018. We also did a really in-depth look at death certificates and other sources of information. This year in particular, or those 2 years in particular, when we looked at these data, we looked at the number of fatal injuries. We also wanted to expand a little bit and include those people who were killed or died as a result of a highway collision, whether they were a farmer or, you know, somebody who was not a farmer but was driving some type of motor vehicle. We learned in 2017 that we had 41 fatalities. We saw a fairly big jump, largely because we had begun to include the motor vehicle deaths as well as the farmer fatalities, and then we had 34 in 2018. One of the things that was really interesting, and I guess maybe confirmed some of the concerns that we have, there's been a ton of work that's been done in the last couple of decades to protect children who live and work on farms, but we actually found that almost 50% of the fatalities were people above the age of 65. So that is a group that we need to pay particular concern about. Farming, we tend to be an older occupation by about 10 years as compared to the general population, and those people have special risks.
All right, John, we talk a lot about fatal injuries. What can you tell us about non-fatal injuries?
Yeah, and Erica, I think, you know, and Cheryl talked about this. We really are talking about data, but we're also talking about people. And in the case of the non-fatal farming injuries, it's a lot of people. We did some survey work back in the 1990s, and then that's been replicated a couple times since then, moving up into 2020. And in those studies in the Midwest, including Wisconsin, we found that about 20%, roughly 1 in 5 of our farms, has a serious work-related injury like every year. We also saw a fairly large number of non-farm injuries from sporting events, recreation, and things like that. But this is a big number. 1 in 5 in the state of Wisconsin, that would translate, depending on the year, to somewhere between like 9 and maybe as many as 12,000 farmers and farm workers and family members who are affected. And about 80% of those do require some type of professional medical care, typically an emergency room visit, a visit to the clinic, or other type of medical care. I think what it really does call the attention to, we think a lot about the fatal farming injuries, but we see a lot of these other things that are nagging, can create a lot of pain and suffering, and also cost people a lot of money. And I think the last thing to say is we all have a role to play. We've all got to be involved in talking about agricultural safety and health and helping to be part of the solution as we work with our agricultural community.
Okay. Well, thank you both, Cheryl and John, for joining us today. We'd like everyone to remember to observe the National Farm Safety and Health Week, September 20th through the 26th, 2020, but to always remember to observe farm safety every day of the year.